Hi, this is Kate from Izzalicious Designs. Well, today I'm going to show you how to make my pencil holder. As you can see, they're quite big, and I actually have them going around a mason jar or a jamming jar, I think you can call them as well. So I have the jar here, and then the sleeve to go over it. Now, you don't really need to have one, but I think because they're so big, it looks better if you have the jar in. It gives it a bit more of a stable and firmer feel to it, and it's not going to fall over as easily. That being said, you could use, you don't have to go out and buy these. They're not very expensive. I got these from, I think it was Target or my local grocery store to do jamming. But you could wash out an old peanut butter jar or something like that, and you only need really one, unless you're making many for different people. But you can interchange these depending on the mood that you're in. Izzy is into My Little Ponies and loves Rainbow Dash, and so I did a rainbow one. Her favourite colour is purple, so I did a purple one. The beautiful things with this particular design is it's a great way that you can just use up some old bands that you have lying around that you might not have enough to do a whole Loomigurumi project with, but you can sort of do different layers of different colours to make this. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is the pattern that I have designed is specifically for this jar. You can make the bottom smaller so that you can accommodate a smaller jar, in which case you could also make it so that you could use it as a holder for your mug, or for your soda, or whatever, if you're making one for your dad, for his beer can, depending on the size. So I'll show you how you can determine the exact size that this is going to be by controlling the size of the base. Alright, so I'm going to pause this and put this back into my holder so that we can do this together. The other thing I should mention before I do that, however, is that this pattern is in written format on my website. Now, my website is www.izzalicious.com, and if you click on the link for written patterns, you will see the written pattern there as well. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to use my hook. Here it is. I'm going to use a stitch marker. You can use a paper clip, a C clip, an S clip, a bobby pin, whatever you happen to have lying around, but it is a good idea to have one of these. And then the bands. I'm going to use a variety of pinks and whites for this particular one, so that she can swap it out for Valentine's Day. Alright, so I'll be back in a second. So I'm back, and as I said, we're doing the cover for our pencil case, or not pencil case, a pencil holder, and I'm using a jar to keep that in a sturdyish sort of position. All you do is slip the sleeve, the pencil holder sleeve, over your jar. As I said, it could be a peanut butter jar, you don't have to go out and buy a jamming jar, and then you just pop that over like so, and there you have it. And you can change the colours. I made a purple and white one. Purple was one of her favourite colours, so I did a purple and white one. Today we're going to make a pink, a different one with pinks. So you just need the one jar, as I said, unless you're making it for, well, one for lots of different people. So we're going to start by making a magic ring, and as I mentioned, I'm doing white and pinks, okay? And I'm going to start with my magic ring in white, and I'm going to have 6 bands like so, and one for my hook. So twist it once and twice around your hook, and we're going to do our magic ring. Now you can just pinch the little end cap there that you just slid on and do that, and poke back through. If you have a difficult time grabbing the little end cap, what you can do also is use your stitch marker at this stage and just pop it through those 3 little loops of your end cap, and that just makes it nice and easy to do your magic ring. And you only need it until you get a few of the bands going, and then it's quite easy to just hold here. Depends really if you have nails or not, doesn't it? So there's our magic ring. Okay, now we're going to do an increase, which means we're going to do 2 single crochets in each of these stitches. We have got 6 stitches, so we're going to increase it up to 12. So here's our first single crochet, and this is the one that we're going to put our stitch marker on, so we know that it's the first stitch. Okay, go back in to that first stitch and do another single crochet. All right, into the second stitch, and you're doing 2 in here. So here's 1 and 2, and again 1 and 2. Now you can do these any colour you want. It really doesn't have to be stripes. It can be a single solid colour. It can be a mix match of any old colour that you are interested in doing. Sarah on our Loomigurumi channel was the one that posted this idea and said this is what she was doing for her loose pencils, and I have to admit I had a little one that I was using just to keep my buttons and eyes and whatnot in, but I hadn't made it tall enough to actually hold pencils. It's a brilliant idea. I like it a lot, and I like the interchangeable idea as well. So Sarah, thank you so much for that. I'm not sure that our patterns are exactly the same, but the idea is the same. So now we have 12 stitches going all the way around. Our next round, when you want to make something bigger, like the base here, you start off by doing your increase, and then you do a single crochet and an increase. Then you do 2 single crochets and an increase, 3 single crochets and an increase, 4 single crochets, and you go on and on and on, 5, 6, 7, 8, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, and that is what would determine the size of your particular base that you're working on. Now I found for this particular jamming jar, I'm going to do 5 single crochets. I'm going up to 5 single crochets and an increase. But for example, if you were doing a soda can, you might only want to go up to 3 single crochets, and you might not want to do, you know, this, well, it is about the same height, but you might want to do a row or a round less than we do for the jar. It's up to you to measure it as you go. So I'll show you the difference. We'll work out what size this one is as well. So our next round, you can stick to doing a white bottom and then do the stripes as we go up. And I might do that for this particular one. On my purple one, I did not. I did a variety of different purples on the bottom. But for my rainbow one, I just stuck to the black bottom. I'm going to stick to the white for this. So here's my first stitch, which has my stitch marker in. We're doing 1 single crochet, and change your stitch marker to that stitch. And then we're doing an increase in the second stitch. So that's 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and you're increasing this now from 12 stitches to 18 stitches. Single crochet and an increase, 1 and 2, single crochet and an increase, 1 and 2. So do that pattern all the way until you get back to your stitch marker. 1 and 2. And this is my last stitch, which is going to be an increase, 1 and 2. So I now have 18 stitches going all the way around. We're going to increase that to 24 by doing 2 single crochets, followed by an increase. This was my first single crochet, so I'm sorry, that was my last single crochet. This is going to be my first single crochet in this first stitch. So here's number 1. I'm going to move my stitch marker to it, and 2, and an increase. 1 and 2 and an increase. 1 and 2 and an increase. And this is just the basic, this is basic, you know, how you make anything bigger. Even if you were doing a ball, this is what you would do to, you know, to determine the size of your ball. 1 and 2 and an increase. 1, 2, and we'll do our increase. 1, up through both loops, 2 and an increase. Okay, so we now have 24 stitches. We're going to increase that to 30 stitches. To do that, we do 3 single crochets and an increase. So, first one, in the second stitch is your second one. Third stitch is your third single crochet. In the fourth stitch is your increase. So 1 and 2, and do that again. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. 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 Oopsie. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. Now this is still not going to be big enough for a soda can. If you have a look, it's still really not big enough. You might need to do one more for the soda can, okay? Which means we would be doing 4 single crochets and an increase. And for our jar, we're going to do 5 single crochets and an increase. So here's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. 2, 3, 4, and an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. Now, depending on how many of these rounds you do, depends on how many bands you use. So my quote of 1,414 really does depend on how wide you go with this. And how tall you go with this. 1, 2, what have I got here? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. Now this should be wide enough for a soda can. I'll just check, that's my last stitch. So let's see, that would be big enough for your soda can, okay? And then you would start going up. So that's how you determine what size you're going to do the base, okay? Now, if you were doing something bigger than a jar, you might go to 6 single crochets and an increase. Completely up to you. We're going to do one for the a new one for the pencil holder. So I'm going to go round now and do 5 single crochets and an increase, and I'll meet you back after I've done that round. So I've done my 5 rounds, and when I place my jar, get my pencils out, you can see that it fits around the bottom quite nicely. So that's the size that I'm going to do for this particular jar. Now, my next round is going to be, and as I mentioned, if you're following this on my pattern, you'll see that we're now on row number 8, okay? It's a single crochet in the front post, and we're going to repeat all the way around. We should have 42 stitches here. So the front post is when you go through your first stitch like this, but then instead of just doing your single crochet right here, what you're going to do is come back through the post of the next stitch, back through the next stitch like that, and this little bit that pops out is the post. Okay, so I'm going to take a single band. Now I'm doing a colour change, so whenever you do a colour change you need to put the loop that was on your hook over like a slip stitch and do your slip stitch instead of a single crochet. Okay, if you're not doing colour change you don't have to worry about it, but we are. So I'm going to put my stitch marker on here, and I'm going to go all the way around in this post. Okay, working in the front post only, doing a single crochet, and as you can see it's going to have this pretty little pattern on the back here. I quite like that. And I've changed to pink because, as I said, I'm doing a pink one. One of Izzy's favourite colour, well, I think probably her very favourite colour is pink. I'd always said I would never have a child that liked pink or Barbies, and boy have I eaten some humble pie because of that. Pink is her favourite colour, and she loves Barbies. So around we go, Now this stitch changes the direction of our work. So instead of going outward, further and further and bigger, we're changing it to come up so that we can work up the side of our jar. And the thing to remember also is remember you're working on your jar. So if you've got a peanut butter jar, it might be a completely different height to the jar that I'm using. So whereas I have 26 rows or rounds of single crochet to build up the sides of my jar, you might need 30 or you might need 20, completely up to the jar that you're using. So you will need to measure it, as in like as you're going, hold it up against your work so that you can see how you're progressing. Peanut butter jars are quite good because they're plastic, and if you're doing this for somebody that's small who might knock it on the floor, you wouldn't want to use glass. Now, I will admit these pink bands are not Rainbow Loom bands. They are nasty bands that I bought when I first started looming. So this is like two and a half years ago. And they've been in their packets and I've not used them because even though I've liked the colour, I've not really had any. They come in small sizes. So you can't really guarantee that you can do a whole Loomigurumi project with them. So I'm really using up old bands. I wouldn't be using bands if I thought they were going to break, although I know that these bands are not going to have the sort of lifespan that Rainbow Loom ones do. Come on, fumble fingers. Here we go. So let's count how many stitches. This is our first one because this little one here was our slip stitch where we did a colour change. This one that has our stitch marker on right here, that's our first stitch. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 30 is here. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. We're supposed to have 42, so we've got one more to do. It's going to be tricky because you've got the slip stitch in there, but we need to get in there to do our last stitch. The post is between these two, which is this one here. So if you can dig around and get it, there we go. I've got the post. So I'm going to go through here. And that's 42. All right, I'm going to do another round in pink, and because I'm not changing colour, I don't have to do a slip stitch. I'm going to go through the first stitch and I'm just doing single crochets. I'm not working in the front post or the back post or anything, just single crochets. Now for mine, I need to do 26 rounds, okay, from round 9 to 34 is single crochets all the way up. you can choose. Usually I like to lay out my bands for how many. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Depending on, you know, what colours I want to do. 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I might say to myself, okay, I'm going to do, we know that this round is going to be the darker pink. I might do 3 rounds. So I've got 1. I've started 1. This is 3. Then I might do 3 rounds or 2 rounds in the lighter pink. So that's 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, and maybe I'll do 9 and 10, and then do 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and I'm going through 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and then back to 1 of the darker pink. So this is how I lay out my bands to work out how many rounds I'm going to do and what colour. So I'm working from up here to the top and then coming back down again. You can choose any colour you like. As you start your round, take one from your round layout that you have here. If you're like me and you're working in odds and sods colours, you might run out and you might need to swap and not have a particular pattern, and that's okay too. One of them I did stripes, well, the purple one I did stripes sort of halfway up, and then I did a solid colour that I had lots left over of, all the way to the top. So it's completely up to you how you do this. Okay, 26 rounds, whatever colour you like, single crochet. Remember, if you're changing colour, you need to do a slip stitch. You need to do the colour change with a slip stitch. I can do one with you when we do a colour change. So we'll do a couple of rounds until we get to the light pink, and then I can show you how to do your colour change into light pink if that's new for you. It might feel a bit loose if you're putting it on your jar. You might think, oh, this is a bit loose, but once you actually do the top bit, it sort of secures around, and I think looks just fine. So around we go, just in single crochets. And when you're doing your colour change, you don't have to do the slip stitch to change colour. That's completely up to you whether you do that or not. If you don't, you just get the bleed through, that's all, and it doesn't look as nice. But that's your personal preference. It's completely up to you. If you can't be bothered doing the slip stitch, that's fine. Just be aware that you'll have a bleed through of the colour of your bands. Oh, that's a very skinny band. I'm not going to use that. That will break very easily. Okay, so I'm going to go around again. That's my last stitch. Here's my first stitch, so I'm going to take one from here and move. I'm going to go around one more time with the darkish pink that I'm using, and then I'm going to do the colour change to the lighter pink, and I'll show you how to do the slip stitch colour change, and then you're on your own for the other rounds until you have a total of 26 going up your work to build up the side of your jar. I use these Ziploc bags for my bands that sort of I'm running out of, so they're not taking up room in my little cases, especially if they're not Rainbow Loom. If I'm using Rainbow Loom bands, my cases hold all those, but for my bands that are no-name brands, then I just use Ziplocs. And somebody did ask me if I would do a video on my storage, and sure, I can do that, not a problem. I was very lucky. We have a friend living with us who's been living with us since July, going through a very nasty divorce and didn't have a place to stay. So we have a finished basement, which means that it's furnished and carpeted and walls are all done and everything, and we have a bedroom down there, which is really our sort of shelter room for when we have tornado warnings and whatnot, and it has an ensuite bathroom and everything. So he's been our roomie until he can get to a stage where he's allowed to go and purchase his own home. And he is a handyman, he's a contractor, so he is very good with a drill and hammer and screwdrivers and all the thing. I don't trust my husband with any of that sort of stuff because we have lopsided shelves and all. He looks after the computers. My husband is in the IT industry and he's fabulous with computers, but I don't let him hold a drill. So nearly at the end of this third round. So this is my last stitch with the darker pink. So the colour change, go in through your first stitch, grab your first band. Remember you're doing a slip stitch, so you pull it through, add your loop, and there's your slip stitch, and move your stitch marker to it, and then you continue going round doing single crochets like you would normally. So that slip stitch is the important part for a colour change, and then when you get to the other side, when you have to do your next stitch, you have to ignore the slip stitch and go in through the real stitch, and it's easy to determine which one is your real stitch in this particular instance because your real stitch will have the stitch marker in. So the first little one that is in the light pink that looks like it's going up at an angle is actually your slip stitch, and that's the one you're going to ignore until you get to your real stitch. Let me show you. So here, see how you have this little one here that's going up at an angle? This is the one you're going to ignore. This is your real stitch. Okay, so I'm going to continue going around doing my pattern as I hope you are, and when we've done our 26 rounds, we'll catch back up with each other. See you then. So as you can see, I've done my 26 rounds and I finished on white, and I just had a little stitch marker here to hold that last hook to hold that last stitch. So I'm going to pop that through here, and now what we're going to do is a single crochet in the front post again. Now I'm going to do that in pink, and then I'm going to do 2 final rounds of white. So let me get my pink ready. I don't have very much left, thank goodness. That's the whole point of getting rid of these old bands. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through, and I'm working the front post, so I'm going through the stitch that I've just gone through. I've got to skip the little slip stitch and come out the first stitch, and it's a little bit tricky because you've got this bulkiness of the slip stitch ahead. Now because we're doing a colour change, I have to add this loop to it. So add the loop. I'm doing a slip stitch in the front post, really, not a single crochet in the front post. Let's try that again. There we go. And I'm going to put my stitch marker on this, and then I'm going to work in the front post all the way around. And this time I will be doing single crochet if my hook cooperates. There we go. So I'm going all the way around in the front post. So I'm not really going through the stitch. I'm going through the stitch, but then back out through the other stitch the other way to get that little bit that's in the middle. And I'm changing the shape again, the direction of my work, so that this can go over the lip of my jar. I rather like the fact that we can change the colour of this pencil holder for whatever we're doing, we can make a Halloweeny one or a Christmassy one or all that sort of stuff. The seasonal change, red or pink for Valentine's Day, or just favourite colours. That works too. I keep this in view of the camera for you. It's quite a big project. I've had people tell me I sound like I'm lisping a little bit, and for those of you who don't know, who don't follow me on Facebook, my husband and I decided that we would get braces. Well, we needed braces, and we were going to ignore having braces because we're so old. But Izzy needs braces, and she has to have an expander first, and so we thought that it would be moral support for her if we all had braces together. So I have, at the ripe old age of nearly 50, I've got braces. I tell you, I have a new respect for all teenagers and people with braces. These are the most uncomfortable things I've ever had, and after eating a meal I feel like I could still feed a family of 4 with what's left in my braces. It's rather revolting. So to all of you with braces, my hat off to you. You're so brave. They hurt. Izzy hasn't had hers yet, but hopefully we'll know all the tips and tricks of how to stop it from hurting before she gets hers. All the way around. We've only got 2 more rounds to do after this, so it's not going to take too long to finish now. And all my old bands will be gone. Yay! I'd like to see a tie-dye one of these. I think that would look rather nice. So I'm nearly at the end. So now here is my first stitch. This little, this little one here is my slip stitch here. So this is my real stitch. I'm going to go back to white, otherwise I'm going to run out of bands, I believe. Oh, I might be okay. We'll see how I go. If I run out, I run out. At least I know they've all gone. So single crochet all the way around. Okay, move your stitch marker. And we're just doing single crochets. Now you should still be on 42 stitches. Okay, we don't actually reduce down to the 28 stitches until the next round, where we're going to do a few decreases. So single crochet all the way around, 42 stitches. And honestly, if you lose a stitch and you've only got 41, I don't think it really is going to make a huge world of difference. I will put the link to my website so that if you are interested in getting the PDF of the pattern, you can. And you'll find that in the description. As I mentioned, it takes approximately 1,414 bands, and the colours, how many of each colour, really does depend on you, on how you're going to do the pattern. If you do one at all, you might choose not to. One more round after this. I'm trying to squidge this down so I don't keep knocking the camera. And this is my last stitch. Now I have to try and make sure I have 28 of these pink bands. So let's see, I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I've only got 16, so I better not use those. Otherwise I'm going to run out and that's going to be depressing. So I'm going to switch to white to do my last 28. I'm going to do a round of single crochet followed by a decrease. Okay, so I'm colour changing, so doing a slip stitch, single crochet, followed by a decrease. Now my decrease, I'm not going to do a hidden decrease. I'm going through the first stitch and then the second stitch. So I've got four loops on each. Okay, I'm not doing the hidden one where we go through just the back loop only. Single crochet and then a decrease. Single crochet and 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 a decrease. Single crochet decrease. Oops, make sure I get through both loops. Oopsie. And finish on a decrease. I'm going to go through my little slip stitch here with a tie-off band, like that. Pull it nice and tight, and I want the tail of my tie-off band to go through these V's that are on the inside here, just so that we can sort of hide it, and you can hide it under these little white V's so that it's less obvious, like so. Take your stitch marker off, and there we have our pencil holder. Now you can you see how when you do continuous rounds you have this sort of continental shift? You can see it a little bit here where the bands move to the side. That's where your stitch marker would be. So your stitch marker never just goes straight up every time you start a new round. It staggers to the right here. But because we did that slip stitch, you can't see too badly where the join is. You don't have that bleed from the top row into the lower row. So then all you need to do, I'll take my pencils out, grab your jar, I tend to turn mine upside down and pop over like so, and there you have your little pencil case. I keep saying pencil case, pencil holder. I think it looks really cute. I like how they turned out. So thank you, Sarah. Lovely idea. Lovely girl. She's in our Loomigurumi channel, Sarah Dowling, from Australia, no less. So there we go. Have a try. See what patterns you come up with. Take care. Bye.